So today we'll discuss about Groovy Scripting in Oracle Fusion Cloud. So if we go to Application Composer and then if we expand any object, so there we can see server scripts. So there we can write some of validations or triggers, etc. So we will be discussing on those. So in this, like we'll first see where we can use this Groovy in server scripts, and then field level scripts versus object level scripts. So what are the different types of scripts we can write in at field level as well as object level, and then what is validation, what is trigger, what is object function. So and then global function. So the difference between between these four terms we will see, and finally the in the application we'll just go through and we'll try to create a few scenarios or few scripts, simple scripts to understand what is validation, what is trigger, what is object function. Okay, so if we go to application, and better to show you in the instance. So if we go to application and then if we go to application composer, and I'll be opening one object called event. So we can write this code, server scripts for custom object as well as standard object. So we can extend to any of object. So this is the place where we can write some back scripts that need that can perform some business logic, or it can minimize some manual like manual background process or manual steps. Okay, so once we go to this server scripts, we can see like this screen. So here we can see validation rules, triggers, and object functions. So the top section will be, it will show the scripts at object level, and below you can see the at field level. Same way for triggers also. So for validation rules, object validations, field validations. For triggers, object triggers and field triggers. Object functions, so there is no like no need of field level object function, something like that. It's just an object function. We can call it in, we can use this particular field object function in trigger or validation wherever we want, or even in like field trigger or object trigger, wherever. So first we'll go to so before that we'll see what is object level scripting and field level scripting. So if we write something on field level, so it means whenever we are changing that field value, so at that particular time the script will trigger and it will run. So whereas object level means, so object level scripts will run when you save a record, or when you create a record, or when you delete a record, or when you update a record. So in this particular events, the object rules or object triggers will run. And field levels, as I said, like it will run only when I change a particular field. You can see, like if I just try to create one field rule, it will ask the field name. It means, so if I want to, if I select something like event type, okay. So this means if I change event type, my trigger will, my code will run. So that is what field scripting is. Suppose I can write here something, event validation. Okay. So here we can so as name suggests, it's a validation. So we can throw some error in this validation rule. It can be a field validation or object validation. We have this error message. So it's a required field. We should throw some error. So this is generally used for throwing errors. Suppose in my event type field, so suppose this is a FCL field where we have list of values, and suppose I, as a user, I do not want to select a particular value. So then what I can write, I'll write my code here saying if 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 your selection value is this one, then you shouldn't be able to select. So something like that of a piece of code I'll write here, and then I'll put the error message here. So that is like you cannot select this LOV value or whatever message. So when that condition is satisfied, this particular error message will be shown in the UI. So there is a format for this, like so suppose, so in the case of required expressions or updatable expression, we saw something like this, right? If I suppose my field name is event type, right? So I'll check for the field. So yeah. Okay, so in field level validation, we don't need the value. So here we have one keyword called new value. So this new value will give the value entered in event type. So new value is equal to something like we'll check the correct value, but I'm giving here test. So in required expressions, we'll give like this, right? If we have if this condition is satisfied, we'll return true, and if it is if this condition is not satisfied, then we'll give false. So so it means in required expression, it means if it is true, then it is required. If it is false, then it is not required. But we are throwing here error. So it means in place of true, we should use false. So then it will throw this error, whatever we have written above, right? So if this condition is satisfied, and if we use this return false, then whatever message here we are using here, that will display to the user at that particular field. So it is quite opposite to the required or updatable expressions. So there, if condition is satisfied, we'll use return true. But in field level validation or object level validation, we'll use opposite way. This is only for validation rules where we need to use this return false. If it is a return true means, then it won't throw any error. If it is written false, then only it will throw error. So we'll change this value from test to the exact event type just after checking the event type. Okay, and then we'll check in UI. So how this field validation will behave.
So this script is written for error message,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
for the field level.
Yeah, it is for error message at field level. So it means when we change event type field value, so that time this script will trigger and it will check for the validation. So before, maybe I'll show you in UI itself, so maybe you will get an idea. Event type. So suppose so I'm not allowing to select orientation. So what I'll do, I'll use this one. So as a user, I should not, I shouldn't select this particular value. So here, one more thing to note is in new value, we'll get the selected value. Suppose I selected event type in UI, so that value will get here. So now we'll go to UI and then we'll check. I'll open some record. So this is my event type. So as per my validation, I have written if I select orientation, it should give error. So you can see, as soon as I select orientation, it is saying you cannot select this LOV value. So so this is how the field level validation will work. So but I can select other value. So at that time, it won't throw any error. So the same script, if we use object validation, so that will trigger when we save or save and close. So in this, if we are updating the record, so that time or when we are creating a record. So if you are doing object level, it means when you are creating a record or updating a record, so deleting a record, so at that time only object level trigger will execute. But field level, as soon as we update, it will trigger. That is the main difference. So again, we'll go and we'll just see, we'll change the same script to the object levels, uh, uh, object level validation. So we'll see again the difference. So I'm selecting this one. And I can delete, I'll delete for now. Or if we want to keep the trigger, but it shouldn't throw any error. So what we can do is we can comment whole script. Okay, we can comment whole script and then we can use return true. So it means return true means what? It shouldn't throw error message, right? So that's why we are saying just return true. If you use just in place of return true, return false, the message will throw every time whenever we select that event type field. Now I'm creating object level validation, and I'll give I'll put the same script, but here here we need to here this new value function will not work. So this new value will work only in field level. Here it won't work. So we need to give that event type field name. If you notice in field level validation, we couldn't be able to see this field section, but in object level we can see. So this is my API name for event type. I'm just replacing with this, with new value with the API name of the field. So remaining everything is changed. So yeah, you can observe the change also. So what in field level we have new value instead of the field API name. Here we should use the API name. And we have also one more function called isAttribute. isAttribute changed. So what this function will do is it will check whether this event type field is changed or not. isAttribute changed. So it will tell whether this particular field is changed. Someone changed this value or not, that it will give. So I'm saying if this is changed and event type is orientation, so then only I am throwing an error. So if I don't use this isAttribute changed, whatever field I update, so irrespective of event type, if I update some other field also, the error will trigger if this event type is equal to orientation. But what if I use isAttribute changed function, the whole validation will trigger if we change and it should be set to orientation. So it means it should be changed from some other value to orientation. So at that time only it will trigger. So I'm saving and then we'll go to UI and to test. Okay, we'll go to again the event object, and I'll edit only one of the record. Now, if you see, we have commented the field level script. Even if I select orientation, it won't throw any error. And but we have a validation at object level, right? So I'll just do save. You can see like this error came. You cannot select this value. And so and the purpose of ease attribute changed is also we can see. So now what I'll do, okay, we can't test that scenario because, so if I yeah, we can't test that scenario. It's okay. So that is validation rules. So any questions are in validation rules?
No, clear.
Okay. So now we'll go to triggers. So in triggers also we have two types, right? One is field and object level. So again, field level means if we change any particular field, so then it will this particular script will trigger. So for that I can use I'll use event type only. So now we'll comment the previous script because we'll use same lookup value. So again, we don't need to go to for getting the LOE value. So what I'll use, so so the name itself is saying after field change. So whenever some particular field, the selected field is changing, so that time it will trigger. So now what I'm going to check is if I'll use same condition if event type is equal to orientation. If event type is orientation, then I'll set one more field value. So maybe so maybe we have like no. Okay, we have one called event name underscore C. It is a text field. Or even we have a event location. So if it is a orientation, what I am doing is I am just setting it to Bangalore. If it is a orientation, I'm setting to Bangalore. So the expectation is whenever I change event type to orientation, my event location should be automatically selected or automatically set to Bangalore. So that is what my requirement is. So before that, we have a validation for the same scenario, right? So it will not allow. So again, we'll comment the validation script so that our scenario we can execute easily. So again, here I'm commenting. And then I'm making it return true so that it won't throw any error at all. So I'm going to event object again. and opening same record. Do we have location here? Yeah. So we have event location. It is currently with student union. So as soon as I select orientation, it should change to Bangalore. Yeah, we can see. So it's changing to Bangalore. But currently our script will not remove this value if we select some other value. So nothing will happen. We haven't written anything, but only if it is something, and then if we change to orientation, it will change. So because it's a field change, right? So we'll do save, and then we'll change to orientation. Yeah. Now it's saved. So this is happening whenever we just select orientation, right? So at that time, it is setting the value. So in place of setting one more field value, we can do some other logic, and then we can finally perform some updates, or we can call some external systems, and a lot more things we can do. But so this is a very like basic level of understanding, like how to use triggers. So in that Groovy code, if we write something else, so when we changing the field, so the whatever logic we have written, so that whole thing will work. So now what we'll do, we'll just I'm not going. Okay, we'll use the same script in object level. So I'm copying the script. So if we are writing the script in field trigger, we don't need to use isAttribute changer for that particular field, because anyway this is field trigger only. So whenever field is changing, that time only it will trigger. So again, we don't need to specify. So now I am deleting this script, and I'll create in object level. So in object level, we have different types of triggers. So after create, before invalidate, before remove, before insert, before update, before delete. So for now, maybe we can just focus on after create, and then before insert, before update, before delete. So remaining we'll see later. After create will trigger whenever we just click on create button. If we just click on create button, right? So that time, if we want to perform something, so then uh, it will it will work. Insert, when we are submitting, or when we create a new record, so that time this trigger will work. If we are updating something in the same object record, so that time it will trigger. Before delete will trigger whenever we are deleting a record. Even before remove and before delete will trigger when we are deleting. So I'll use before update. um, uh, and then here, this is before update, right? So if I use isAttribute for event type, I can use like the script will be executed when we change this field only. But if you don't use isAttribute changer, So whatever field we update in that particular event type, so it will trigger. So I'm keeping it as it is. So whatever field if we update any of a field, so it will set to, uh, if it is a orientation, it will set to Bangalore. Before update we created, right? Now we'll use after create. So in after create, so mostly we can use this to default values or something. So here also I'm just selecting without any condition. I'm just setting event location to Bangalore, and I'll save. Okay, I can't give the trigger name with the same name, so I'm giving it something else. So create before update we see we created, and then we'll use before insert, and we'll use the same script. Now for these three scenarios, we'll see the this UI behavior. When we create a record, we should see a default value for event location should be Bangalore. For insert, if it is a orientation and then we are creating, it should again default to Bangalore. And while updating, if we update anything, it should again reset to Bangalore. First we'll see create. So now as soon as I click on create, my event location should be defaulted to Bangalore. Okay. I don't have that field, but what I'm doing, I'm not giving event location field value, right? But in backend, it is setting that we can just see after just creating this record. I didn't enter event location, but it should create, it should take automatically. And if we expose that field here, it will show it will show here only, because we haven't exposed this field in create screen. It's not appearing, but inside there is a value which we can see here. Okay, and for update scenario, like I'm updating something here. I'm updating ban, and I'll just save. Now it should again reset to Bangalore. Okay, it's not working. We'll just see what is wrong in before update trigger. So as per this code, it should work. Also, we'll expose that event type field in page layout, so that we can observe this in create or in create events. I'm going to expose all the fields. So now I'm again just creating that record. So if we see here, event location is defaulted to Bangalore.
Okay. So
And yeah,
it will be a default value kind of thing.
correct. It is a default value. Now, after creating, I don't want this to be Bangalore. I want it to be Hyderabad. So I can enter. I can proceed with the latest value, and I can proceed.
So next time when you open this event, so it will be Hyderabad only, not
Yes,
Bangalore.
correct. And as per our other triggers, so when I change event type to or if I update something in this fee in this it should default to again Bangalore. So that is not happening. Okay. So we have a condition there. If event type is orientation, again while updating, we have given that trigger. So that's why it is again resetting to Bangalore. But if we don't use that, it will the old values it will be still be there. And so this is update scenario. So whenever we update, it will be default to Bangalore again. And one before insert trigger, so we can see that also. So now I am giving event name and I'm not giving event location. Whatever Bangalore is defaulted, that I'm removing, and I'm selecting orientation, event type as orientation. Now if I save and continue, again because of that before insert trigger, again it will set to the Bangalore because of the one more trigger. So currently we have used 3 triggers. So one is to default event location to Bangalore on just creating on just hitting on create button. So that is first one. Second one will be again if we click on create, and then if we enter something, and even if we have some value or something here, and if event type is orientation, and then if we create this record, so again it will set back to the correct value that we defined in the script. And on before update trigger, so we have some value in the event location, and if we change, okay, if we change event type from something else to orientation, so again it will reset to Bangalore. So these are all the 3 types of triggered we have covered here. Any questions? So now one more thing we have is object functions. So object function is nothing but, so we'll write some code here. So suppose maybe we can consider same code, and that code we can call it in okay. Here we have returns. So after all the calculation, or after running all the logic, which type of output we need to return. So void means it won't return anything. So it will just perform all the set attributes or defaulting values, whatever it will do here itself. If you want to return something string value, we can use long, double, date, boolean, object. So object is nothing but one complete row. One complete row means one complete record, one event record contains all the fields and values of that particular field and list map. So these are some examples. So for now I'm using void, so it won't use anything here. So I'm writing the same script here, okay, and I'll call this. So like this, we can write some other whatever logic we have, we can write here, and then I'm just saving it. We can use this validate button for any validation purpose to check any syntax errors or. So now what I can do, I have written same code, right? So what I'll do in update trigger and insert trigger, or we can see in update trigger, we can use this object function in validation rule. So wherever Groovy supports, we can use there. The same script, right? I'm just commenting all of this. And I'm just calling this object function which we have written. So for that, we can go to this fx, and here we have a row where we can see the object functions available in this particular event object. So here I have in this object, I have this function. I can insert this one here. I can insert here. Okay, it is inserting here. I don't want here. I'll come to this place and then I'll insert. Okay. So because it is we are invoking a void function, it doesn't need any parameters. We are returning there is no input and there is no output also. So because it's a void function. If it is returning something, then we can define something variable. And we can store whatever it is returning, that we can store in a variable. But now this is a void, so I don't need to say anything. The same piece of code, right? That is inside of this object function. So we are just calling, we are storing the same code in something else, and then we are calling that object function, that name, so that the same code will be executed. The use of this object functions is, so if I want to put the same code in multiple triggers, multiple pieces, so I don't need to write everywhere all the lines of codes. So I can just use this simple one line of code. Currently we have used it in before update, right? Same one line we can use in before insert also. So we can observe that we can reduce number of lines of code using this object function. So here also I'm just replacing with object function test. So code is same, but we are minimizing number of lines of code with this object function so that we can reuse it. If there is some script which can be usable, it can be reusable, so we can use this particular object function feature and we can call it anywhere. We can call it in validation rules. We can call it in, if you remember, updatable expressions, field expressions. There, wherever we see this Groovy palette, we can use there. Also, so this object function is available at this particular object level only. It's a event object, right? So whatever we have written, it will be available only for this object. And one more function is we have, that is global function. So if we define same thing, if we define some code in this global function, and so this function can be called across the application. So whatever object it is, whether it can be account or contact or some other custom object, wherever we want, we can use. It's a same feature, but this can be used across the application. But object function can be used only in that particular object only. So that is the main difference. So now we replace it object function code, right? We'll maybe can just see uh, one scenario where it is working or not. That we'll just check. So we have changed this object function in update event and uh, uh, create event, right? So I'll just do the same. I will save to some other value, and then I will save. I'll change back to orientation. And this should work. Yeah, it's working. Okay. So this is how validations, object functions, triggers will work. So yeah, that's all for today.